Bonjour, welcome to the Notorious DID. I am Valpray. I would like to let you in on something that of recent I became aware of. I have certain access to the memories, like the other two primaries, and during the time that I was at the forefront, something was triggered to access a memory from extreme past. So to explain to you, we've not discussed too much about really what Solora got into. Pardon, got into a lot about her specific past with her being during her time. We've not gotten into the extreme past as far as when you're younger or anything like this. So of recent, as you guys know, that our grandmother had a circumstance where she was put into the hospital with a broken arm. Okay, so during this time, this specific day, went to visit her, and everything has been a lot of an emotional roller coaster with trying to get everything done and get her situated. Praise Jesus, praise Jesus, that she's now positioned in a facility, and currently are working with her and things of this nature. So everything that's not completely done, obviously, there's a lot that needs to be situated. However, this particular day is the day that she had the surgery. I was the one who was at the forefront. I had to deal with well, I didn't have to. I unfortunately chose to allow Kay into the circumstances due to it being, even though she's never really claimed me to be her mother, she pretended, I guess you'd say pretended. If you knew her, you'd know it was probably full of poo, that she cared about what's taking place and things like this. So we went to the hospital, and she started to talk about what led up to it. Let me think for a second. I just changed out with Soloro, so I'm still trying to get my bearings, but I wanted to make sure I mentioned about this. Somehow we got around to discussing stuff that had to do with extreme past. She started to... Kay is a narcissist. She is a narcissist that also has, in conjunction with that, she has she's a pathological liar. She also has the component of being how you say, hypochondriac. She's constantly in need of attention, constantly in need of feeling that she is making things up, to feel she's super important, and there's so much. That's just a few off the top of my head. So the pathological liar part is coming into play with this story right now. She was talk about the body, and I will say the body because it really, other than I being a part of the body now, it doesn't have specifically much else than that to do with me. But so she was talk about in Columbus, Ohio, where the body grew up when is younger, about a specific boy that was in the neighborhood. Well, I vaguely recall, I can vaguely access memory of this boy, but I can't track it down. What I do know, I know, and what I know, I remember this boy, his name, I remember him, I believe, went to school with the body, but other than this, I never recall exactly where in the neighborhood the person lived, nothing like this. She go on to say, oh, this person was over at our house all the time. His family didn't pay attention to him, so he come over to our house. That's incorrect. That's a lie. Straight out lie. I personally, I can no deal with the lies. It annoys me no end when somebody stares at you to your face, full well knowing that even if it were no me, the body was there, and still lie. Still lie. Like we don't know that she's full of poot. So this is how this rotten conversation starts. I tell her, no, that's a lie. Then she go on to say that this party live directly across the street from us. No, is another lie. You probably may or may not care, but when we moved into the neighborhood we moved into, the house, that neighborhood was actually just, I don't know if I don't think all of it, but several areas, specifically the lot that my grandfather purchased, was being built. The house was built to my grandfather's specifications and things like this. So they moved into the house right before the body's born. So that's 1973. Then a little while after, evidently during this time, there's a lot of, it's primarily white people in the neighborhood. And then there are a lot of black families who start to move in the neighborhood, start to buy the homes and things of this nature. So I am told by my grandmother, by our grandmother, I don't know if that was her perception, obviously, or if that's what specifically took place. She said, "Oh, this the black families start moving in, and a lot of the white families start selling their homes and move out." I I don't know. My grandmother has racist perceptions, so I'm unsure if that was strictly her perception of is what took place. I do know at the back end of that, the bulk of our neighborhood was of the black race. There were a few. There's several white families. My grandfather was white. My maternal grandfather was white. My maternal grandmother is white. However, that would be biologically too, even though we do not know who they were, because um, the family that I know of as my maternal grandfather, is through adoption. Kay was adopted, and so was R. So R would be uh, the son they adopted, and Kay is the female they adopted. Kay is unfortunately biologically our mother, and so our body is black and white. At this time, there's a long story linked with that I'm not going to get into right now. I almost went there and I thought, no, that's not going to cover the story I'm talking about. So the people across the street was this very, very nice older man, and I would say him and his wife. I mostly saw him, not so much his wife, but he was probably the perceptions you have when you're young is so difficult to range. But the perception the body has is probably in his late 60s and his 70s. Very nice. Always spoke hello, was always very nice. They had no children within the household. I never saw a child over there. We never saw a child over there. Then she said, "Oh no, it weren't that house. It was the house next to that." No, because the house next to them there was a girl and her parents, and the girl was really not the body and her were not friends. The girl was not a nice individual. But in which direction, he did not live. She's talking about a boy is who the party I'm talking about, and he did not live there either. Like I said, I can't know specifically, we can remember where exactly he did live, but it were not there. So then I tell her, you don't know what you talk about. It's why are we even having this conversation? We're in here. My grandmother is still asleep from the surgery, and this conversation is going on. So I'm get frustrated because she's lying about everything as usual. Then she goes and starts to talk about the family that lived next door. On the one side of us is a friend of ours that I still have. Was one of the first friends of the body uh, since being probably being 4 or 5 years old. I think it's when they moved in around there. when we were this age. On the other side, I, of course, am no think about anybody but the family that I knew that was there, which was very nice family. I was friends with the girl who lived there as well. And she lived with her grandparents, and occasionally her mother was there, but they don't the body didn't interact with her mother too much. She did with the grandfather and with the girl. She did not have any. So Kay starts to talk about the girl's brother. I said, no, she didn't have no brother. She were only child. And so me and her start go back and forth. Because when I get agitated and get irritated, I'm like, no, stop lying. You don't. What do you talk about? Then she say, that I don't know, and I can't tell you if the boy's mother's name was the same as this separate family's boy's mother was the same name as the girl's mother, the girl I was friends with. So she starts to talk about that name, which I associate with the girl that I was friends with. We'll just call her C. C's mother. And so I'm like, no, they did not have any boy. There was no boy that lived there or anything like this. And then she keep push and say, oh, I babysat the boy, and his mother is such and such, and I keep saying no, there was no, you did no babysitting nobody, because as we grew up, as the body grew up, Kay was always a problem, and she, for the most part, did not participate in anything unless she was causing trouble. The remainder of that time, she would be off in her room, laying on her butt, watching television, or do something like this. She did not have jobs or anything of this nature. So, some point between me and her go back and forth about this boy. It struck me, and I had a trigger. I had a trigger from the memory. I said, oh, you talk about D. I'll call him D. You talk about D, and I suddenly realized at that home, prior to C and her family moving in, there was a white family that was D's family. D was, I recall from the memories, was a monster. D was always mean to the body, was always hitting, kicking, pinching, was a monster of a boy. Monster of a boy. So this is automatically triggering me as well, because of how horrible the memory is and how horrible this D, treated the body. So then she's go on about, oh, this poor boy, and she said, oh, you were 2 years old, and because Kay doesn't respect the fact that we are different or acknowledge it or anything else. She said, you were 2 years old, and this boy, he died when he was, no, you were 2 years old, is what she said, and he was 4 years old, and I was babysitting him, and this boy, he died when he was either still 4 or 5, I don't know. But anyway, and she like, oh, then I realize that she is supposed to be babysit this boy that I recall, D. I recall everything that D used to do. I do believe that he used to say horrible things about us two or to us verbally, being nasty, just a nasty, rotten individual. And I realize, because she say we're 2 years old, and that this boy is 4 years old at the time, that this means that she was allowed a 4-year-old child to hit, to bite, to pinch, to kick us at 2 years old. A child that not only should you be watching your own child that's 2, but a child that is 4 years old that you should be watching and is doing all this. So I instantaneously get infuriated because now I specifically know, and specifically that the memories are pulled forward of this of D, and the fact and the knowledge that we have distinct memory, and irregardless of D's age or anything else, that is still someone who is being abusive. It is not acceptable. I don't care what age you are. And it should be stopped, and it should not take place. And that means that other parties, not only K, because let me state, K was, I'm not going to get specifically into all the stuff that took place with K, but priorly I had memory factors that came into play that I knew of since 3 years old. But this is even younger than that. This is 2 years old, and she's allowing a different party to be abusive too. So at this stage, it is my distinct belief that possibly since birth there has been physical abuse. I know there was always verbal abuse, but even just not even just with the factor of K, but now this other party, and I know I'm not even speak of just her throughout what I know, but now this other party that I recalled being so horrible, the body was 2 years old. It was unacceptable to me. And at that stage, excuse me, pardon. At that stage, I became outraged. Even if I was knowing the body at that point, and even if I am a secondary, any child, any child that's going through that, that's unacceptable. And I have these distinct memories from the body, knowing that this party that's sitting in front of me allowed a at least 4-year-old child to abuse the body. Knowing that this, you probably figure in the back of your mind that this has always been going on. You figure it in the back of your mind. Verification that even younger than 3 years of age, because in the mind we knew of 3 years of age. Verification that's even younger is totally unacceptable. So I immediately, as quietly as possible, because I am right there with our grandmother and in the hospital room and things of this nature, I told her that we were not friends. I told her, we are not friends. You need to get that clear. And I said, I do not want you to talk to me any further. I don't want to hear from you any further. So still, it is absolutely ridiculous based on the fact, because Kay did not even remember this boy's name. You know for a fact she knows exactly what this boy did, the way that this boy behaved. She's talking about, oh, he passed away at 4 or 5 and all this, and pardon is sad for a child to pass away. Do not get me wrong. It does not change the fact that the child was a monster. When someone dies, it does not change the fact as to what someone has done. It does not change the fact that someone is a monster. It does not change the fact as to why are you going to all of a sudden feel bad about someone pass when they have never been decent to you. And even more so if a monster was sitting in front of me. Because let's keep in mind, with D being a monster, the body and D were both in front of what was supposed to be, at 2 years of age, an adult, supposed to be an adult, sitting in front of 2 children and allowing one of the children to beat on the other. Now, another thing that comes up into that, was she specifically watching the 2 children at any point or just at certain points? That would not surprise me either, because neglect was a huge portion of the upbringing. Any which direction, Kay is a monster. The child may have been a monster. The child may have grown into staying a monster. Nobody knows at this point. What we do know at this point is that Kay is a monster. You do not allow. Children may do bad things, but you make sure that the child knows not to do the bad things. You also make sure that this is not taking place. And in our mind, we recall a lot of times, a lot of separate times when this boy was abusive. And now that we know that the body was 2 years old when all of this took place, possibly younger, because I do not know, I don't specifically recall how long any of that I hadn't even specifically recalled that she had been babysitting him. I mean, in a young child's mind, especially 2 years old, it's amazing that the body recalls and remembers all of those things, much less registering the fact and remembers the name, because the body remembered the name and Kay didn't know. Specifically remember that, but not outside of that. Not, if I'm to think about it, I don't recall where or anything to do with Kay, where Kay was, or anything to do with Kay. There are no good memories that have to do with Kay. Let's put it that way. None. Not of recent, not ever. None. And that just solidified the fact that the neglect and abuse from Kay and in conjunction with Kay having to do with, because that would definitely, I would say, have to do with if Kay was supposed to be watch this D and watch the body, and this stuff took place, then that's in conjunction with physical abuse and mental abuse and neglect. I did no talk to her the rest of the time, and I do no talk to her in the first place unless it's necessary. I do not like the fact that it is unfortunately necessary to have to associate with due to current physical problems and financial problems and things of this nature. It has, to a certain extent, been like you're trapped with the monster in the cave. Does it build you and mold you and make you a stronger person? Absolutely. I would say personally, myself, I am no, I am not standardly violent in any way, not verbally or physically or anything of this nature. Physically, I still am no. I have noticed of reasons that verbally I have had more aggression toward K, and verbally, well, in my heart, there is disdain and there is aggression, and I am unclear if it's specifically of just my nature, because I know I do not like her. Ever since I've been here, I know like her. I know like her. Not even, that's of my own accord, not even to do with the body and the things that I know. That's of my own accord. She's disrespectful. She's a rotten individual. She is a compulsive liar. She's just, I don't know of anything good that I can say about her. And there's very few people that I can't say something good about. But I can't about her. And now there's even less. Now there's even less that I can even, I don't even like to, me personally, myself, Valpray, I don't like being around somebody that I know is a piece of garbage. That's the nice person to do, because I know this, but a piece of garbage. So this gives you a little bit more of an insight, obviously, into possibly what came about for the D.I.D with the body, and a bit more of the background for that was triggered. Triggered from one of the main bases of everything that's taken place. So we share the good and we share the bad with you. We thank you for coming to listen. Thank you for coming to listen, for sure. For anybody that is undergoing or has undergone any form of mental or physical abuse, our hearts are with you. Please, if you feel the need to seek assistance, seek assistance. There's nothing wrong with saying that you want or that you need help. There's a lot to deal with, and there's a lot to confront within yourself. Anger, aggression, depression, upsets of many different natures. Don't allow yourself to go down the rabbit hole or to lose yourself for what others have done. Because no one deserves physical or mental abuse, and no one should ever hold themselves accountable for that. That is strictly the party that did that and created that. So I will close today. I wanted to share that. because that just recently took place and it's been weighing on me. I wanted to share that. At any given time, there could be a trigger. No matter how old you are, no matter which altar is taking place, if you don't have altars, if you don't have D.I.D, you can, there are different triggers, but you've had these forms of abuse, different triggers can affect you at any given moment, at any time. So you're not alone. You are not alone. And I was not expecting that to take place with me being at the forefront, or my reaction for that matter. The reaction being so strong was a little shocking to me as well, because it wasn't in my normal nature. But we thank you for coming to listen. Please like, share, subscribe, become a part of our community. We welcome you with open arms. We request you hit the notification bell. That way, anytime we load a video, you will be one of the first to know. This has been Valpray for the Notorious DID. And for today, I say adios.